Hello friends, welcome to my channel ELS English Literature Studies with Gaur Harpreet. Today I will discuss William Wordsworth, whose time period is 1770 to 1850, and he is an English romantic poet. As we are discussing about romanticism and features of romantic poetry, this is the first poet I'm going to start today. William Wordsworth wrote lyrical ballads with the joint efforts of S.T. Coleridge, which is an important work in the English romantic movement, and in 1843 he became poet laureate. Actually, he was the only poet laureate to write no official verses, and he was an English poet, a key figure of romanticism, who invented a new style of poetry with the help of his friend St. Coleridge. And in this style, in which the common life of the simple people served as a material for his poetry. So friends, today I'm going to discuss William Wordsworth's features of his poetry, in which I will discuss him as a sonneteer, as a poet of nature, as a poet of man, and as a poet of childhood. Firstly, starting with as a sonneteer, if you want to know more about sonnet, or about its origin, or anything regarding sonnets, you can watch my videos. I have 3-4 videos on already on my channel. You can check those videos. And let us start with today's video, in which I will discuss firstly William Wordsworth as a remarkable sonneteer. William Wordsworth is a remarkable sonneteer who stands next to Shakespeare and Milton. He was very fond of sonnets as it suited his genius. The greatest critic of the Victorian age called him one of the chief glories of English poetry. These sonnets embody his total vision of life. His sonnets have memorable intensity of emotion, spontaneity, and musical effect. His sonnets have the simplicity of expression and are free from the bombastic words. He had his own formula to revolt against the artificial and bombastic diction of the 18th century, that is new classical poetry. And his style marks a complete break with the school of Pope. For him, the common life of the simple people served as a material which was fit for poetry, and the diction employed in poetry is also drawn from the everyday speech of human beings, that is not full of bombastic words. He departed from the formula of the use of everyday words in poetry as it was used in neoclassical poetry. I've already made one video on this, in which I've discussed how this romanticism or romantic poetry is different from neoclassical era. You can also check that video. Wordsworth used color of imagination in his poetry, and the themes of his sonnets are passionate love, aching jealousy, human fate, love for nature, etc. These are the themes of his poetry. From every sense, these sonnets show the poetic genius of him. And what are the themes? His treatment of themes, the lyrical appeal, the striking images and pictures, the wealth of conceits, the felicity of the language, the melody of the verse, all are the richest poetic treasures of English literature. That is why he is known as one of the giants of English poetry. He is the worshipper of nature. We can also say he is a nature priest. He gave nature an independent status in poetry, and he wrote 523 sonnets. And some of his very important or famous sonnets are like this. It is a beauteous evening, the world is too much with us, composed upon Westminster Bridge, London, the solitary reaper. Next, I will discuss Wordsworth as a poet of childhood. Wordsworth's highest poetry springs from collection of childhood. There are many poems which vividly glorifies childhood. For example, we have Ode on Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood, and I have one dedicated video on this Immortality Ode, and one on Tintern Abbey. If you want to watch that video, I will provide link in the description box. You can check those videos. Now coming to the topic again. According to Wordsworth, the child is a symbol of soul which brings in this world the knowledge which is not of this world. He calls a child mighty prophet or best philosopher. He idolizes and glorifies childhood, and his treatment of childhood is not of universal application. He has generalized this from his own experiences as a child. And actually, his poem Immortality Ode contains a metaphysical doctrine of childhood that informs us about a life before birth and therefore the immortality of soul. He believes that human soul lives in heaven before it comes to earth. And if you want to know more about his ode, Immortality Ode, you can watch that video. Next is Wordsworth as a poet of nature. Wordsworth is regarded as greatest poet of country and natural life. He not only portrays nature with the loving care and precision of an artist, but also perceives the spirit that informs nature. He is both a painter in works and mystic. He wrote always his eye steadily fixed upon his object. He has been rightly called as the keenest eyed of all modern poets for what is deep and essential in nature. His love for nature was boundless, as he holds early communion with the power that prevails and transcends nature. Thus, his knowledge for nature was unlimited. His descriptions of nature are graphic, accurate, and minute. And for him, it is the embodiment of the divine spirits, which is fundamental principle of his nature phenomenon. His development as a devotee or worshipper of nature is marked by various stages. In his youth, he was attracted by the outward appearance of nature. He was enchanted by the sights and sounds of nature. This is his first stage. And in the last phase of his life, he spiritualizes the moods of nature and won from them moral consolation. He concerned himself with nature in her ordinary, familiar, and everyday moods. For Wordsworth, nature has a divine power. He believed that God shines through all the objects of nature, investing them with celestial light, but it has educative influence too. In 3 years she grew in sun and shine, he describes the influence of nature on man. Nature serves both as law and impulse, inspiring man with noble thoughts and restraining him with evil. William Wordsworth is the poet of solitude and inspired by nature. He says in the preface of Lyrical Ballads that poetry takes its origin in emotion recollected in tranquility. Wordsworth as the poet of man. Wordsworth's attitude towards nature gave him a special attitude towards man. He regarded nature to be one with the living soul. He believed in harmony between the soul of nature and soul of man, and this harmony is everlasting. He is truly the poet of man, as he is the foremost singer of those who throw around the lives of homely men and women the glory and sweetness of song. His theme was the heart of man, and his work has become a force to soothe and heal the weary soul of the world, a power like one of nature's to strengthen or awaken the imagination of mankind. He deals with the life of countrymen where simplicity and human qualities are not overlaid by artificial conventions. For example, in his poems The Prelude, Immortality Ode, and Tintern Abbey, these are concerned with human life. The democratic ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity influenced his poetry about human life. He was the first who realized that a spirit of independence and stern liberty is the birthright, and the passion of the poorest shepherd, as well as of the patriot who fills the pages of history. So, friends, this is all about today's video in which I have discussed William Wordsworth as a sonneteer, as a poet of nature, as a poet of childhood, or as a poet of man. I hope you will like my video, and if you like it, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. And if you are new on my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.